Hello, hello, hello. I'm Eddie Obeng, and this is how. How do you get stuff done? Well, you come and listen to this particular quick vid. It's a daily lesson, sharing, idea, set. Actually, we call them PETs. PET stands for People Engagement Tools, Possibility Exploration Tools. And this one here I have for you today is about trying to make sure that you travel in a nice straight line from wherever your idea is to getting it done. It's called Here to There. Let's jump onto Cube and let's have a look. So welcome to Cube. If you're into Agile, you'll love this cubicle. This is the Agile cubicle. So over here is where you can do your daily stand-up. Depending on the day, you can come and have a look at what you're doing, what I did yesterday, what I'll do today, what the blockers are. You can do your sprint planning for the current sprint or the next sprint. You can take a look at what your Kanban tells you to do, what the team is, what's in progress. We use a lot of commenters here because a commenter lets you put a topic and then people can comment below so that you can actually have all the information squished into one place. Or if you like, you can do your stand-ups and so on using your webinars. It's dreadful. I know it's dreadful. Okay, so this is the little space where you can do your retrospectives. If you come out into the wider space, perhaps you have many teams running Agile. Well, out in the wider space, you've of course got all the big boards on the strategy of what you're doing, on the vision, and on the retrospectives and so on. So you can see all the way down here, you've got things like the vision and so on. So this is a great cubicle to work in if you're working on Agile. And of course, because we're on Cube, as you know, the sun is always shining. There you go. I told you the sun was always shining. Look up there. So let's jump on and let's have a look and see what we can find about Here to There. So did it ever happen to you that you were trying to run a change or a project or something, and then you suddenly discover that overnight it's become a month late or a week late? Has that ever happened to you before? And the answer, of course, is yes. So how does that happen? The question is, it happens because you're making a big mistake. And the mistake which everyone makes is always the same mistake, which is that they assume that it's going to be on track all the way through, and they're not paying attention. So let's work our way through what actually happens when you try and drive change. So this is here, and let me write at the top here, there. Okay, so this is my there. And we're going to make a journey from here to there. And the journey is going to be relatively straightforward. It's going to take us through a change, a strategy, a project. It really doesn't matter. But that's our here and that's our there. Okay, so you start off on track. Everyone starts off on track, okay? And you're aiming for your end goal. Of course, the first day, it goes not quite to plan. So you wander off track, but you're not paying attention and you're not reviewing. So how are you feeling? Well, you're feeling great because you don't realize you've wandered off track. Then you wander off track a bit more. You're not paying attention. You're still happy. And then about here, one of your stakeholders goes, "Oi, something's not quite right here." Okay, so you have a catch-up review meeting, there's stress and so on. Anyway, you set off back on track and you wander off track. And you wander off track, but you don't know you're way off track. How are you feeling? You're feeling marvelous. Okay, and then over here, another stakeholder says it's all on fire, it's horrible. So you have a little bit of misery there. And then after your little bit of misery, you set off back on track and maybe you wander towards there. And that's how change tends to happen. Okay, mostly off track because that's the nature, because you tend not to review because guess what, you're busy, there's no time to review. And if it's slightly late, you can just work harder and try and avoid having to review so you can save the time. And if it's a complete disaster, no one wants to review anyway. But the good news is if you're not reviewing, most of the time you're really happy. But my recommendation would be start with your here and there, and then what you need to do is split it. I usually say split it into 5 sections, okay? So what happens is you start off on track and immediately you wander off track. So you check and you discover, oh my goodness, we're running late, somebody's not happy, something's gone wrong. So guess what, you're miserable. Anyway, you set off again, you wander off and you check it again and you quickly discover that it's off track. Oh my goodness, how sad that is. In fact, every single time you look at it, it's off track and you're miserable. And the rule of this is if you're delivering change, running a strategy, making a project work, and you're not totally miserable, you're probably screwing it up. I'm joking, but I'm serious. The reality, of course, is we need to have a clear way of going from here to there. And one of the reasons we don't review isn't just the fact we haven't put in review points. The other one is reviews take one heck of a lot of time, usually an hour. They're miserable. Everybody lies all the way through them. So I'm going to show you how to use Here2There to make sure that reviews take a really short time and that they work and everyone buys it. So how does Here2There work? Literally, you just take this idea of Here2There, and there are 4 boxes in the middle and 1 to the side. This is the assignment. So the assignment is, I don't know what your assignment's going to be called. Let's give it some sort of weird name here, okay? And then the most important thing of all, did I say the most important thing of all? The most important thing of all is you then put images or diagrams or anything but no words into the boxes. So you might, for example, say our starting point. Well, right now here feels like we are completely lost. We're at sea. I'll put some sea here, okay? And we're being attacked by sharks. I'll put a shark's fin. Okay, there's a shark's fin. Okay, and that's how it feels at the moment. Where we want to get to is we want to get to, I don't know, sunny upland lit world with the sun shining all over us. I'll try and do a yellow blob or something like that. That's not a very good yellow blob. Let me make a bigger yellow blob, okay? And the sun, okay? I don't know. Let's pretend that's where you're trying to get to. And then you write about what is going really well. We've managed to get everybody to be able to be trained so that they are now taking the first few steps they need to up the mountain. Okay, so that's the steps up the mountain. And what's not going well is some of the stakeholders are refusing to pick up the phone. They put their hands on their ears and they're going la, 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 la. Okay, so I've summarized an entire project. So you give people about 10, 15 minutes, and then they just present this image. That's all. Just describing what the situation is forces them to boil down the review to the essentials rather than blah, blah, blah. We did this last week and so on. So that's Here2There. If you can't draw and you are not on Cube and you haven't got a lovely drawing board like this, you can just use images. You can get people to create one on, say, a PowerPoint. So, for example, where do we want to get to? We want to get to a nice, good structure over there. What's not going well at the moment is it's all very fuzzy. Where we are at the moment is people keep asking dumb questions about things, but we're getting on well as a team. Now, the order in which you read these has an implication. If you want to animate people to do different stuff in the future, you start with there, then you go to here, then you go to what's going well, then you go to what's not going well. If you're trying to start people and make sure they understand what the situation is, you start with here, because this is what they'll recognize most. Then you set the goal. Then you say what you're stuck with, and then you go to what's going well, not boost them. So think about the sequence with which you actually share your images and messages as you review. So that's Here2There. It's a great way of getting people through reviews. It's a great way of making sure you don't go off track too much. There is a quick guide as always. There's always the newsletter, Pet of the Week, to subscribe to and bring your colleagues onto so that you don't have to explain everything all the time. And this has been How. And that was Here2There. And I've been Eddie Obeng. I'll see you again.